Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Insurance for the New Possible, a Chubb conversation. Today we are joined by Khue Dinh, the country president of Vietnam at Chubb, and Terry Lee, the head of insurance at Techcombank in Vietnam. And before we get to the main part of our conversation, let's get a bit of both of your backgrounds for some context. And Khue, let's start with you.
Sure. I've been in insurance for 21 years.
21 years.
Yes.
Go ahead.
22 years by now. I miscount 1 year.
That's okay.
I start the first 7 years in Vietnam. Then after that, moved to Singapore. And the last 2 years back to Vietnam.
Interesting. And you're Vietnamese by birth, yeah?
I'm Vietnamese by birth. I grew up educated in Vietnam and started to work there before. I think I thought I should learn something about the world before going back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Terry?
Good morning, Michael.
Good morning.
Thanks for having me here.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm actually a Chinese Canadian.
Canadian?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was born in Hong Kong, but then I moved to Canada back then. Got most of my educations, my most important first few jobs in Canada, in insurance companies and banking. So my first job is actually for an insurance company fresh off from university. And since then, there's a history. And then I spent the last 20 years in Asia Pacific. And so Hong Kong, Singapore, Jakarta, now in Vietnam.
It changes the way we think about things when we move as young children. I moved around a lot when I was a kid as well. Mm-hmm. And I think it changes your perception of the world. And you said the same thing, too. One of the things you want to do is get a view of the world.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you come home or come back to your main country,
Yeah.
it changes the way you think about what's happening there as well, no?
Definitely. And I think seeing things from different perspective,
Right.
meeting and at first disagreeing with people from different culture is a great learning and open your horizon greatly.
Completely. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think, Michael, the opportunity I can work in Vietnam, because as you say, right, I'm a Chinese Canadian. I don't speak Vietnamese. And 3 years ago, when Techcombank approached me, and the first answer is almost like thank you, but no thank you.
Really?
You're right.
Where were you then? Were you in Hong Kong?
I was in Hong Kong. I was working for a Singaporean bank, but in the Hong Kong office, and then looking after their insurance portfolio. And Vietnam is Vietnam really, and then because I don't. This is a country that it's so close, but then it's like a total stranger to me.
Yeah.
And I don't speak the tongue. I don't understand the culture. So, but the only thing I noted is, it's a country that got a really good potential, and in the insurance space is even greater for that. So, yeah, here I am. Now, and enjoying it.
But you said born and raised in Vietnam, educated in Vietnam as well, and been in insurance for 20-something years.
Yeah, 20
What got you
years.
into the insurance industry at the beginning? Because 20-something years ago, it doesn't feel like a long time.
No, it was completely by chance. So I work, I learned biology, ecology to be specific, and I work for Hanoi Urban Environment Company.
Interesting.
So working for the government for about a year after graduation, the work life is not as dynamic as I expected, and
Interesting.
I would like to do something new. And so insurance came up. There's an insurance job came up, and I went for interview. And the day that I went for interview, I look up the dictionary to see what is insurance. All they need is speaking English and can do computer. And I do a lot of words and Excels and stuff. And so I said, I have what they want, so I just go for it.
But so I like to ask this too. For people that have been involved in the banking and finance industry for 20-something years, right, for 2 decades, what was the perception of the use of technology when you started? And did you see these changes that are happening today coming? Or were they surprising to you as well?
Michael, I started my banking insurance career back in the early 90s. That was the time when internet still it's like a toy thing.
I was there.
Right.
I remember that. I was definitely there.
Right. It's like all this, modem, 36.6K dialed up. Right.
I remember the sounds.
Right.
Yeah.
That sort of things. Right. And honestly, right, back then we were young, and then, do we see this coming? Honest questions, probably, maybe, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think the impact that we're seeing now compared to 20 years ago when we're expecting, definitely there's a gap of that. And I can say that the impact that technology is making right now, it's a lot faster and bigger than we were thinking all along.
Yeah.
What do you think?
So for me, I look at it from the lens of underwriters. For 17 years, I'm very in health insurance, which one of the most stringent in terms of selecting customer through the underwriting process.
Go ahead.
So while working in health, I've been always around, how do you simplify underwriting process and simplify the sales process so that we can do it better. But so at the beginning, I thought it's just the digital. It's just to make the process a bit easier.
Make the process a bit easier.
Right.
Go ahead.
So when I started with micro insurance about 6-7 years ago, then it blew my mind about, how different the concepts are. And when you start to talk about pay-per-use type of insurance, no longer yearly or fixed insured person or fixed period, all of that changing so fast, and from there I can see the lens of technology.
So once you realize that, right?
Yeah.
And if you're looking at it from an underwriting and the relationship between underwriting and customer selection and sales,
yeah.
Once you see the power of that technology, how does it impact the way you think about what we're calling now digital transformation?
Yeah.
I think Michael, let me take this. In short, I think technology, what makes the insurance, especially we say that the personal insurance, what's the impact it's making? It's how people interact with the counterparty, which is insurance company.
Right.
Before it was all people and it's all paper, and the best machine you can get is telephone, maybe better than rotary phone. Fax machine is something really good, right? And pretty much that's it, right? Everything you need to actually grab a pen. I remember I had, when I was young, I was in the field and serving customers, and I have a ski accident. My right hand is broken. I cannot really write properly. So you know what? My boss is really worried that Terry is going to really harm the productivity because my right hand cannot write properly. Now you think about it, right? This is something totally, as a surprise.
In a way, it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. Why? Because I think the trend is the people, the technology is transforming. The people want to interact with the company in a nutshell. Now, and what is the context of that? It's no more than the communications of the promise. What insurance company going to promise, and what do you like to pay for this promise or to get it? All right. Yeah. And technology, I think transforming this is the speed on both sides. Yeah. It's getting so fast that than we can imagine, and transforming that. So we can, the way they designed the product before, the way that we designed even the underwriting process before, it's all about, what the insurance company wanted to get to the customer. Yeah. Now, right, because of the change of all this, technology, it's I think the table is turning. It's now the customers get in the driver's seat and say, hey, this is what I want, right? Yeah. Don't tell me what you need, is what I want. Yeah. And I think that, Michael can live in. I feel very fortunate that I can actually live in this time of my life. I can see the both sides and being in a transformation.
Do you feel like you're more excited about the industry today than you were when you first started? Like, I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah,
definitely.
And that you can't fake that. Go ahead.
Absolutely. So if Terry come from the other end of the customer, right? I come from the other end of the insurance company. So I run P&L, and I started to face the fact that I don't sell $1,000 per person anymore. Now I have to sell $1 per person, and I have 1,000 policies to serve instead of one.
So what is your view on this idea of the communication of the promise? I love this idea.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for me, I come from the fact that challenge is something we have to go through, right? Operationally, how do you serve so many customers? The first time I come across one account, and my team said, more than 1,000 policy, your system crack.
Really?
Yes.
So you came to them and said, like, we need to do
stalled.
this, right?
Yes. So we have to deal a lot with back-end systems and, how do we input the information into the system is the whole operating model for the insurance company. And then on top of that, distribution channel has to be different. And the way that you approach customer has to be different. But I don't no longer have an agent explaining 1 hour to sell $1 policy. It has to be so simple that the customer said, okay, I don't need you to explain to me. It's straightforward.
So if penetration is low, and if it's no longer an agent spending an hour with a customer to sell a $1 policy, and if the channels, there's so much here, right? And if the channels have to change, what's driving each one of those little individual steps? Maybe just from a distribution standpoint.
I think, Michael, I would sort of reframe the question.
Go ahead.
The way, right? I would ask, okay, just step back a little bit. Vietnam, what's so exciting? Why I'm in Vietnam is 65% of the population is 35 years and younger.
Wow. Yes.
Right. So you talk about not even millennial, right?
Yeah.
The whole possibility is even Gen Z.
Do you feel like, and keep that thought, but I want to make a point. Do you feel like there's been no better time in like the history that you can remember to be a young Vietnamese person?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I know what you mean, and absolutely agree.
Yeah. So sorry, Michael. So back to that questions, right? That's what I want us to focus is. I think the core of the things that we want to crack is how would this big Vietnamese people under protected.
Yeah.
They need to protect because of wealth, because the country, the GDP is just growing up. They're
Really
going to earn more
fast.
money, right?
Yeah.
They accumulate more, asset, right?
Yeah.
They buy more cars. Their productivity goes up, so they're worth more protections. They need more protections from on the personal side, right? So it's not about that. These people, how, because of all these digital transformations, how they like to interact and be prompt on the need. Because I think one thing that would never change is, one day you wake up in a bad road up, Sunday morning, looking to your, significant half and say, look, right, let's go to find some insurance. It's not going to happen because insurance, the risk is always something in the back of my people, don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
They would probably say, hey, we're going to have brunch. We're going to have a, walk on the beach and stuff, right? We're going to, spend a Sunday afternoon nicely rather than talking to my financial advisor and talk about the risk. So they need to be prompt. Yeah. So I don't think that's going to change.
Yes.
Even with all this, transformations, people as people. But then it's about how they would like to be prompt. And they will feel that this is the right time. And this is our job as I hate to use the word intermediary. That was so old date, right? Bank, I think it's a financial solution provider, right? A bank is one of them.
Yeah.
And we do products. So I think Banco, to quickly give that, answer or my view on the question is, how we can construct and actually bring in that protection needs in a conversation or interactions that customers want. And I can connect it to it. That would be the future. And because that is the way that they want it to be interact, with all this technology.
So what are they telling you? What are they telling you? How do they want to interact?
I think number one, they want less people. They want quick, fast. I mean, as you can imagine with your iPhone, right? Everything, I want instant gratification, right? 2 seconds on your apps and you press the screen, right? Everybody can laugh at it, right? Yeah. And if it's not responding, you think, is there something wrong with my phone or my connections, right? Same thing. I think that you can go on that path, right? Not just, I think, things that we need to connect them with, 24/7. But on top, I think it's okay. Is it going to be like 20, clicks? Yeah. Or after I do all this, you say to that, I still need to call you back for that one. Come on. This is like, I'm not going to do this, right? And this is fail. So I think that is transforming how we think, and it is right on to Gui's point. Micro insurance. Why don't want to do the big policy, but rather small policies, many of them?
Yeah,
it's exactly embracing that is because if you do want to do like you want to put together a bike. I can do it. I can go to, a shop and put together my kid's bike in 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
But if you want me to put together a Tesla, it's impossible. So, right? So I think
I wouldn't even consider it, but go ahead.
Right. Or even buy, yeah. So anyhow, right? This is an example. So I think, microinsurance in that sort of analogy is, okay, give people bite size, easy to understand, the problem in the right time, and, and right there, convenience. I like it. Right? I feel good. And I feel that good that I'm being protected for something I worry about and I'm being prompt. And that's it. I think this is something that, how do we aggregate them together? So rather than we sell them 20 things that they don't gel together, I think from the bank side is, okay, you got these 20 interactions, but how does this 20 interactions add up together become a bigger plan? And all this micro adding together become macro.
Yes. So beside what Terry just said, to answer your question about what customer tell me, customer never tell me how they want to buy insurance and what they want to buy. They don't want insurance at all. If it is the moment that they talk to me, and most meaningful for me is when it has claims, and when something happened in their lives and they said, "Oh, I see, this is meaningful to me." It could be from accident, terrible time where they, bring eggs to my office because they can't believe that, it's just a Grab ride cover 2,000 dong, and then they got some insurance money out of it when they got an accident. But it is, can be simple as you have a mobile phone and it's cracked the phone, and then I have my phone repaired with very little money, right? So those are the moments that the customer talk to us. I sometimes have to innovate about how do I make my products relevant, simple, no-brainer to the customer to get it in the first place.
So you said when you were working your first job, right after you graduated from college, after you graduated from university, you had an opportunity to interview at an insurance company.
Yes.
And you said the first thing you did was go look up what is insurance.
Yeah.
So you had to educate yourself.
Yes.
How do people educate themselves today? It's very different, right? And if you think about the technological improvements, which you were talking about as well, someone like you who graduates from university, maybe it's on a Sunday thinking I should have brunch, but maybe on the way to brunch they get into an accident with their car, and now they understand they need protection or something, right? They want to protect their assets. And particularly as people get wealthier, incrementally, they feel like I now have enough things that I need to protect them.
Yeah.
How do they go about and find and get educated about insurance?
Yeah. So I see a very different environment in Vietnam and in like Western culture. I have the chance to live in both, and I feel the fundamental difference is that sometimes people do realize that there's a risk in their lives. The difference in culture where insurance and financial services has become more mature is that, okay, I got insurance, so I get something to protect, to planning to protect that.
Right.
In Vietnam, it is more about, okay, how do I deal with this? But insurance doesn't always come up as a natural choice of risk management.
Right.
And that is something that we want to change, and we want to increase. And I think that with education, with development of financial, it's changing, but majority of the people still, it's at least in Vietnam, as I see, many people still doesn't see that and don't want to see that as well. Like if I want a crack for mobile phone, I want that as repair service instead of an insurance for mobile phone, right?
You've worked in other countries outside of Vietnam, and you've worked in banks and insurance for decades, 2 decades, yeah?
More.
I think you and I are the same.
I
and I are the same age. I think we talked about this. But what do you take from working outside the country to bring into the country, right?
I think, Michael, the education is the right sort of aspect to sort of, understand, what should be the priority. I think insurance is a product, right? Protecting them is the benefit. But what is the need? Yeah. The need is there is risk. There is, something we cannot predict. Some bring you inconvenience, some bring you harm, some bring you something is really changing your life, right? If you lose it, and and insurance is, how you connected to this is, sometimes is not the answer, but it could financially it could help people. Now, I think You're right. Education is how we help people, Vietnamese people, to understand different categories of this, unpredictable things in life. And if the wrong side happen, what does that mean to you, right? And they're not necessarily understanding, number one, the category of that, risk or unpredicted things in life, and how to prioritize them. And I think as a bank, that is exactly what we should focus to help them, and improving our daily job or daily life and in work to help them on this aspect.
What role does data play and data aggregation play in this idea of how to then educate people about what type of coverage they need?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll take it. Great. I think from the bank side, from again, right, the financial solution provider kind of angle. When we talk to customers, we don't come in with something that we don't play God. Well, we come in, we want to hear from them, right?
Yeah.
And why we want to hear from them? Because we want to know them.
Yeah.
Now, given, right, if I already know half of you before even you tell me, right, some things, and, that helps a lot in that conversation, right? And it's like the beginning of this podcast, right? Michael start asking, "Great, Terry, we don't know you, right? But what if, Michael really know us for last 20 years? I think this conversation is going to be different."
Has to be though, right?
Yeah. So
it has to be.
Right. So Michael, get to the point is, yes, I think for the bank, the more we can know about a customer from different things and then make it relevant to the conversation, not just helping us to do the job, but also helping the customers to realize, okay, what are we talking about here? And what is it really what I want to talk about?
Yeah, yeah. So I think relevance is a very important word. And then besides relevant as well, I always see that, sometimes the customer do not always know their risks, and the ability to bring them some protection, something that they need, but very seamless, very easy, is also the responsibility of the industry, right? That's why we talk about financial inclusion. So being relevant and offering something that customer needs, but not by asking them, because when you ask them, what do you need? They never need anything from insurance. Right. So how do we analyze, how we look at the data that we have and bring something relevant and in need for that customer profile is what we are trying to achieve.
And how do you, because you talked before about these 20 micro interactions that you have with the client, right? And is that aggregated, and then does it lead to something important? How do you feel like you understand people enough that at some level, and this gets back to the one customer for $1,000 or 1,000 customers for $1 as well, how do you get that to dig deeply enough into who they are so that it feels like the product is just for them?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, I think it's a very good question. The thought process about how do we, put up the architect of how do we want to interact with the customers more than just one incident, right? Because, from banking is you can do so many things with a bank now, right? And of course, some banks even have more, aggressive to do more than just, deposit, lending and all this, right? Some get in different things. I mean, last 10, 15 years is like wealth management is a good example, right? 20 years ago, a lot of banks don't even have investments right now. Banks, and all this investment insurance is all key. So for us, I think to design it, I would use a very simple picturize it is, right? If I'm running a supermarket or something like Walmart kind of thing, right? You will not put baby stuff right next to the hardware, right? When you're trying to design the walkway. And you will not put something really specialized right at the end, or get to the cashier. So I think it's why, because this is,
Are you thinking about this when you're doing product design and also thinking about channel design?
I think when we think about this, it's like a thought process on customer journey design, right? I mean, insurance is just part of it. I mean, you think about it, right? When people got their money, they got, in wealth management world, right? It's like a lifetime. Wealth accumulation, wealth decumulation. Well, in accumulations is how do I safeguard my money? How do I maximize my return? But then once you get it, then how do you get your money out effectively? Yeah. And then the last is how do you, transfer? Now, I think for general insurance or the P&C, be specific A&H, is more about, okay, when I accumulate my wealth, I got a lot of important things. And how do I protect them? That is part of the wealth accumulations and all along, right? And it's part of the wealth, transfer as well. Like something that is a legacy, is like a painting. How do you ensure, right, that value is going to pass on? That sort of things. Now, so I might go back to that. Yes. I think the simple answer is yes. We think about it because different customers, like if you're a male 45 years old compared to a female 25 years old, it's very different than when we walk into the shop and, kind of journey. And, we digitize it. We can actually customize that for them when they come to us with all the technology. Think about it. 20 years ago, we can't do it because you have to come into the branches. You have to make sure there is a manager. You cannot have 20 managers with different profile, right? You have one manager, and then that's the branches. Now you go to the digital store. So I think the possibility with that one is just really open up.
But this is so interesting. I hadn't thought about it in this context. You're right. Like the salesperson isn't just one person who's like a 50-year-old man or a 50-year-old woman, but their clients are also not. You could be a 25-year-old lady and, like you said, a 45-year-old man. But the interactions are different. So if I'm selling insurance to somebody who's my age, it's fair enough. I understand everything about them, but I don't necessarily understand about the 25-year-old woman because I'm not living that life. But you talked about this before. How does that underwriting process change as well as you get closer and closer to doing products that are, I wouldn't call them bespoke, but are more specific for me and my cohort, which you couldn't do 25 years ago, right? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, so that into many areas that, insurance using data for, pricing, for doing underwritings. For me today, I think in Vietnam, I focus on something very simple. Make it easy. I know the customer.
But it has to be easy both ways, right?
It has to be easy both ways. And important is that, for example, when I work with Terry as a partner,
Go ahead.
Terry already, make customer go to his branch and, everything to do what we call the no customer requirement, right?
KYC.
KYC, yeah. And know your customer. And I do not want customer to have to go through that again. So, of course, we win. So that is more what we want to do at the first step.
Right.
But then, of course, how do we further use data to offer something relevant, easier for the customer? And how do we do that? Why respect customer privacy is also a lot of things that we have to discuss with ourselves. Yeah.
How do you look at other industries that are also struggling is the wrong word, but that are addressing the same types of issues, right? Yeah. If you look at e-commerce or other platform companies that are trying to say, I don't want to sell the same thing to a 25-year-old young lady that I do even to a 25-year-old young man. Do you look at other industries as well and think, how can I learn from them so that this new generation in Vietnam that aspires to have a better life can actually get a better experience across the board and not just here? So where else do you look and what do you take from them?
So we do not just want to learn from them. We want to partners with them.
Go ahead.
So that what they are doing could be a part of what customer can benefit from us. Hence the ecosystem ideas, right?
Right.
My husband hates that.
My husband? Why?
He said, I hear ecosystem everywhere. And it's overused words sometimes.
It might be, right? But again, if you go back and look at just like a Japanese car manufacturer, right? We didn't call it an ecosystem. But if you go down to Aichiken, where Toyota is based, and you look at where all these part suppliers are, all those part suppliers, because of just-in-time inventory management, just-in-time manufacturing for Toyota, all the part suppliers were based around Nagoya in Aichiken, And that was an ecosystem. Maybe we didn't talk about it the same way, but this is not new. And I think that the idea of building a digital ecosystem means you don't have to be from a proximity basis in Aichiken, but you want to be close. And this is why your husband hears it all the time. It's not just you. It's not just happening in your house. It's happening everywhere because the ecosystem is really important, no?
It is, and it actually brings a lot of benefit to the customer. It's cost saving for the customers as well. However, I think the aspect of, how does that interfere with my privacy? Could be the parts that make people feel a little bit, having a little bit objection to it. But I actually think that if it's done properly, it is bring a lot of saving, waste reductions,
right.
and benefit to the customer, convenience and benefits.
What do you think?
I think, Greg, you're spot on. I think back to the earlier we talked about, basically what we talk about here is promise, right? We promise something to the customers, and customer trusted that we will carry out the promise when things that that we talk about happen, and then right. So I think a couple things on this one. Number one is, can I trust my counterparty, right? When I'm trying to pay for a promise, right? Can I trust these people? And I think you're right. No, it's not just about telling people how good you are, how big you are, and all this. It's about what you can do, right? So your claims, right, and service focus is absolutely correct. And then back to the ecosystem, it's not clunky. It's not the whole thing is not far away. It's something that we bring it to you, and they can see the value. For example, right, if you use my credit card, the bank's credit card, to buy some like a big TV or let's just say mobile phone. Right, and on the right moment, this is important for me, right? For Vietnam people, sometimes it's a major purchase, right?
Yeah.
For phone and for telephone. Maybe not in our market, but for them, it's a major purchase.
But I mean, an iPhone costs $1,000.
Yeah,
it's a big purchase for everybody.
For them, right? So when they do it and they use the credit card to do it for the major purchase, right? We prompt them that other than just quick payment, you can get your phone, enjoy it on the same time. We actually think about, as I say earlier, the risk that the unpredictable things can happen, and prompt them in the right time, and for that one, you should think about it, right? Yeah. And when really something bad happened and we really carry out what we promise, they see the value. And you know what? This is ultimately the bank's want. We want people to trust us, stay with us, it's stickiness, and then, bring more to us, because we're not only do one line of business, we want to serve them for all, whatever we can offer as a financial service. Yeah. So I think, Michael, this is my, part of the bank assurance strategy in banking as well.
Yeah. Terry, but I recall one of the, we first of all really enjoy the talk about, what we can do together is to address pain points, right? I remember, and one of the pain point in insurance is that people might buy a lot of insurance, but they can't remember what they buy and what are they for, and how to make that visible. How to make that clear. For example, a customer might buy 3 policies from Techcombank, and Terry, in the first place, want to make sure that they can see all of the things, and very easy. And then in there, they can see, okay, here is what I bought. Here's how I can cancel it. Now, here is how I make a claim. And just a click on his app, on the bank apps. And, beside what everything else we say about the relevant, about the products, about the protection, the simple thing about understanding what I bought,
right,
and arranging it, make sure that I know whatever I bought in insurance is there and only in one place is also another aspect that we discuss as well, right?
Absolutely.
As you roll out new ways for customers to figure out how their products are seamless, what the products are that they have, how they can cancel them, what kind of feedback do you get from your clients, people that are using your business as a distribution channel, right? What kind of feedback are you getting from the end customer that says, hey, that was way easier, or now I understand how this works? Does that make sense? Like, what's the feedback you're getting?
Well, the feedback, I think, from our customer, right, from the bank's customer, is, as Gwei say, the pain point is it's not clear. It's everywhere.
Right. So this is interesting, guys. We talked about value chain. These are value chain innovations, right? Somewhere along the way between the time where I realize that I need coverage and I have risk, and let's say I have a claim. But along the way, all these pain points aren't clear. So I guess my real question is for both of you is, how do you identify what those pain points are? And then how do you go about addressing them with technology?
Well, the first thing is to go back to the customer, right? I mean, we have to have, good understanding. It's talk to them. I think we cannot be destroying it. But then I think the data, back then is like all this focus group and all this. This is old school.
Right.
But then I think the quick way or the next sort of chapter of doing it is how we can leverage the interaction digitally with them and deduce our learning from that. For example, right, Michael, we got in some digital journey, we keep talking about it, right, customize different journey. Not all of them go through everything and become a happy customer.
Right.
There's
They drop out, right?
Right. So I think from that aspect and from a bank angle, that is very valuable data. And how do we learn it and can translate them into, okay, this is exactly the gap, and how we go back to the partner and we enhance it together. I think this is, in sort of like overall strategy, this is something we have to crack.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. So I will address your question about how would you identify the pain point based on a very internal process of developing products. So when Terry and I planning to launch some products together, first thing our team work together is design the customer journey. We identify at the point of even before knowing about insurance, what do they need to know? What are the pain points?
Right.
When they purchase, after they purchase, when they have the claims, when they have an inquiries about the policy, what do we do? And all of that is a first thing. The insurance products, the process, and who is doing what come after. First, always customer journey is a first discussion.
Yes.
I was surprised myself. You were talking about dropout, right? And I actually went like this. This is me like pressing the no button on my phone, right?
Yeah.
And I'm older than most people, most of your aspirational customers, right? Yeah. But I thought it was really interesting that I didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that. I was thinking about it as I was doing it. I'm like, I did that. That's me doing something on my phone.
Yeah.
Do you think about mobile journeys, I won't say only, but more specifically, than you do about kind of this type of journey? Do you know what I mean? Or is it mobile first for everything now?
Well, I mean, that is more the UI UX, right? The user interface, right? For that, that's the thing. So I think from insurance and bank assurance, right, angle, yes, Michael. I think especially in the micro insurance space, no question about it. It's got to be mobile device first, right? How do we embrace that? Because we can see a huge trend of other banking transactions is actually moving on that platform over the traditional internet banking platform.
Right.
So how do we embrace it?
Yeah. How?
Well, basically, right, it's as I say earlier, it's the minimizing the click. Right.
Yeah.
Because
I like it. You're doing the same thing. Even while you're talking about it, you're thinking with your thumb.
Yeah.
I love it.
I'm trying to picturize it. The thing is, right, why people drop off. Well, sometimes they don't give you the no, right? Because we don't design a big red no button, right? They just drop off. But why they dropped off, right? I think this is the key. Back to that question: what can we learn from that? And I think this is the things that we can learn from it. It is why they drop it off at that specific points, right? Is it asking too much questions? Is a font size too little, right? It's like I don't know what to do. I mean, so many questions, right? And then, I don't feel value. We'll keep going, right? All of this, right? But then, Michael, the how do we resolve it? I think the way that we trying is we understand what exactly make them drop off from that, because they're already committed maybe sometimes in there and think they show interest, right? I want to know more, right? Is it really the core of the offer is not something they thought of? That could be it. But then if this is something, I want to protect my mobile phone. And then at the end of the day, yes, we're giving one of the best mobile phone protection. Why you dropped off? Because I don't want to give this information or whatever, right? Oh, no, maybe it's pricing. And the customer journey. I think this is the journey thing. The first thing we want to eliminate is because we have a clunky and disconnected and not working, on the journey, then they could drop off, right? Yeah. That is the worst things happen to us, and we need to eliminate that, right? And then the rest, I think, is the next level of the challenge.
So for me, I think our personal life and professional work life has been bombarded a lot by mobile first technology. So a lot of things that we discuss daily and many business opportunities that we work every day is on mobile first technology. Here, and so naturally it is a very important part. But to be fair, insurance, a large proportion of the insurance premium is still coming from a different channel. The channel from mobile first is still quite early. It is, and especially in Vietnam. So we we do, even for sale, we do cater for different touch base. Sometimes could be through mobile phone. Actually, the internet penetration in Vietnam is quite high.
Very.
And people are still using a lot of portal and internet things instead of mobile phone. I think mobile phone is up and coming really, really fast, faster than anything else. But for me, I still feel it is the future.
Okay, that's really interesting.
But that doesn't change the fact that you start with customer journey.
Customer journey.
Yeah, and have to design with how the customer assess your product, know about your product in the first place, and purchase it. Yeah, and a lot of purchase is happening with mobile phone or online because that is so much easier than filling the papers and sign.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think personal line, I think from more the industry word, mobile first. No questions about it. However, right, in the general insurance world, it's more than just personal line. And for the corporate and commercial, my view is in the next maybe even 5 years, it would be still how do we equip our physical channel, which is RM and the representative, because in the commercial corporate area, those cannot be eliminated, right? That probably that direction, and how we actually digitally assist that people to bring up that conversation and that process a lot faster and smoother is the key. So, Michael, I think yes, mobile first, definitely on the personal line.
Right. Can we talk a little bit about commercial just for a second, maybe,
Sure.
and then I'll let you go?
Yep.
Because the commercial assets, if you think about it, are moving away from only physical assets. Let's just call it plant and equipment at scale, right? And if you think about the physical assets now moving into digital assets, and I'm not talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, I'm just talking about digital assets like connectivity, things in the cloud and stuff like that. Are you seeing what's the right word, a mindset change around we need to now protect those things as well? Yeah?
I definitely see that from our business on cyber insurance. So that is one of the
Right, that's pure protection.
growing,
Protection though, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So that is one of the very fast growing line of business. There's a lot of risks associated with it for us as well as doing that business. But the demand is really, really high.
That's interesting.
Okay. Let's talk about customers, right? I mean, traditionally, if you're in manufacturing, which is Vietnam is a big sector, right? So the traditional, marine cargo, product liability, all this is like given, right? And they need it to do the daily business. But I think what prompted it is, what about their digital assets, for example, right? If you are more in a creative business, a lot of things is actually in cloud. Or if you're actually in a financial, industry, right? A lot of your assets, and I think, right, it's for the entire insurance and bank insurance industry is our job to help them or educate them that what is the new class of risk.
Yes.
And you're rightly saying it's the cyber risk, right? And there is different aspects. And then how can we help them? I think even from the insurer aspect, it's still even the reinsurer, right? They try to define it better and how do they actually manage that risk, the pricing and reinsurance better. Yeah. But then I think it's two end.
Yeah.
The insurer is one end trying to design and find a better way to protect the risk in a reasonable premium. But I think on the ground it's right. How do we help those commercial clients to realize this is an emerging new class of risk, and the way that you do business before, right? For example, right, if you entire client base, like you have a global whatever like network, and it's all in cloud, and what if it disappeared, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you and all your billing and all this, right? You will have really trouble, right, to carry on. Right. So how does that you gotta deal with it? I think this is something that maybe SME. That sector maybe it's a big opportunity that because I don't think there is a high awareness yet happening in Vietnam for that and that that sector, the SME, is growing really fast in Vietnam as well.
What you just said triggers something that I recently the Vietnam government made a very advanced step as they now enforce that a number of companies will be responsible for to purchase environmental insurance
ESG.
for all the environment impact
Right.
that they create. I actually think that is really, really good step. And that, again, it's not just the physical assets, right? It's liability and not just,
Great. One point I want to add on this one, right?
Yeah.
As a foreigner, as an expat working in Vietnam market, insurance professional, Vietnam government is very good.
Yeah.
They are embracing, and I think one thing I really appreciate that is they have a very shocking, as you know, they have a very open mind attitude toward the other market, what's going on, and they want the interactive way when they try to shape how the regulatory landscape, rather than they try and error and stuff. So I think that is something that I think from outside of Vietnam people may not aware of it, but when you work in a country and work with a regulator, that is something that I really appreciate. I mean, across all the markets that I've been working in, I would highly rate it that their attitude. I mean, the way that they treat, how to do the collaborative way of shaping the landscape.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
I agree.
That is a killer way to end this conversation. I really appreciate both of your time. Khue Dinh, the country president of Vietnam at Chubb, and Terry Lee, the head of insurance at Techcombank Vietnam. Really incredible.
Thank you,
both
Michael.
very much.
Enjoy very much. Thank you.